to Roland's Reviews. All right, we are still reviewing the book by Robyn Crawford, A Song for You. So we're actually in chapters 11 and 12. Chapters 11 and 12, starting with 11, of course, obviously. Robyn starts talking about Whitney was a little strange, and she said she'd be in a room talking to herself. But she found out Whitney would say, she was talking to Jesus, okay? She said Whitney wasn't much of a morning person. She said that if she worked all night, you'd be lucky if you saw her before late afternoon. She liked to sit around. She liked swimming, lounging in the pool, watching television, playing with her cats, Misty Blue and Marilyn. And above all, we know, listening to music, all right? She loved Whitney, loved Shaka, Stevie Wonder, the group Change, Walter and Tremaine Hawkins, Andre Crouch, No Winans, Fred Hammond, DeBarge, etc., etc., etc. So she talked about their cooking skills had not improved, so her mother suggested that Whitney hire Aunt Bay to cook meals for Whitney. Now, Aunt Bay, now those of you who don't know, she's a close friend of Cissy's. So Whitney felt that Aunt Bay would be obviously spying on she and Robyn, and then of course reporting back to Cissy what was going on. So Whitney hired her because she needed the money, but she said, I don't want her, she's nosy, she'll just report back. I don't really want her around here. So what she would do when Aunt Bay would cook the foods, Whitney would send Sylvia down to get the food because she didn't want Aunt Bay snooping around, all right? So that's how that went. And also, she mentions that Cissy was a little bit jealous. Now, of course, Whitney's a big star. She feels she should be there instead of, now remember, Robyn is living there in the house, this nice big, mansion with Whitney. So Cissy's feeling, a little thrown out. So she talks about how, Nippy Inc., which was Whitney's company, John Houston, Whitney's father, was the president. Her mother was the vice president, though she was rarely present. So Robyn talks about, remember the drug use? She said that, she and Whitney were saying, we can't take them where we're going. Well, they're still using them. And she talks about one evening Whitney, Robyn, Michael, and his wife Donna were doing drugs. Robyn wanted to leave and go home because she wanted to, be prepared for work the next day. And so Whitney didn't want to leave. So Robyn called Sylvia, and Whitney went off on her. And I won't use the expletives that she used, but Whitney yelled at her, do you think you are? I pay your salary, and now I'm not paying, what, am I paying you to be a chauffeur now? So then Whitney tells so Sylvia's in the middle of it. Then Whitney tells Sylvia, take Robyn's you-know-what out of here before I kill her. All right, so anyway, that's, so Robyn was like, the cocaine she was using was making her feeling isolated. She felt like she couldn't do the best, her job to the best of her ability. So then she went to Whitney's mother, Cissy, and said, look, we're all doing drugs. So, people are feeling some type of way. Well, tell on yourself. Why are you telling about, on us? So Whitney, she said that caused a little bit of separation between she and Whitney. And she talked about the success of Whitney's second album, but there was a backlash. People, were looking at her and, saying she's a sellout and it's pop, it should be R&B. So, the critics were very harsh with Whitney. And, to me it was unwarranted. I mean, talent is just talent. I don't care what color you are. So remember the songs, How Will I Know, Didn't We Almost Have It All, So Emotional, Where Do Broken Hearts Go? All these were number one. I Want to Dance with Somebody Who Loves Me. And again, hey, talent is talent, and I feel it was totally unwarranted the way they treated her. And remember Al Sharpton, calling her Whitey Houston. That was just wrong, folks. I'm sorry. Then she talks about, remember, Cissy didn't care for Robyn and vice versa. But she talks about she kind of felt sorry for Cissy because Mother's Day, Robyn and her siblings would take her mother out to eat, nice, lovey, touchy-feely. Whitney and her siblings didn't do that for her mother. They didn't have that type of relationship, so she said she felt kind of sorry for Cissy. Then Cissy was jealous, again, of Robyn, and when she would go to visit, sometimes Whitney, you know, they're in this mansion so they can see the camera. Sometimes Whitney would tell Robyn, don't answer it. So she'd see Cissy get back in her car and drive off. Or sometimes when she did get into the house, Whitney would be in her room and Cissy would go knock on the door. Whitney wouldn't even answer it. So they had a strained relationship. All right. So also, the next tour, Greatest Love tour. Now we're to the Moment of Truth tour. So this started in July of 1987. All right, 87 through November 88. So anyway, Robyn talks about how it was suggested that Whitney add dancers to her show, and then Whitney learned some dance moves herself. So you know, and that she did put on a good show, but it just enhanced it. So Robyn talks about, you know, how the critics reviewed the shows and they commented on her hair. They talked about her clothing. I mean, folks, they were brutal. I mean, Whitney already had self-esteem issues, and then, you know, this didn't help. I mean, she had all these hits, and they just were unrelenting. And she worked hard, you know, so it wasn't right. She talks about how she tried to talk about the substance abuse again. Whitney didn't want to, you know, whatever. No, she didn't want to talk about it. She talked about also how this is an incident. Now, remember, Robyn said, you know, they were no longer physical after 1982. So this right here sort of disproves that notion. So Joy was one of the background dancers. And one day, and this was in London, Whitney was sleeping, and Robyn said she hadn't seen her for a day. She said she knew what she was doing. She was with Michael. All right, another Booger Sugar Bandit, as another famous YouTuber says. They were doing drugs, allegedly. So she said that Joy, the background dancer, called her, hey, you want to go and do some sightseeing? She said when she got back to the hotel, all heck had broken loose. She said Cissy was upset. Whitney was in the corner crying. Cissy was like, where were you? You're working. And so Robyn, I guess she didn't want to be disrespectful. She just, you know, hey, I don't have to listen to this. So she tried to walk, you know, she turned her back. She was going to walk away from Cissy. And when she turned her back, she said that Sid, now we already know Whitney has the hands. Well, obviously, Cissy has the hands too, okay? So she said when she turned her back that Cissy, or as she calls a big cooter, wham, slapped her across the face. And she said that Cissy grabbed her, and then, you know, she said that Whitney was like, no, leave her alone. So then Cissy stopped beating up her girlfriend, Robyn. All right, so then Robyn says later in the day, Carol was doing Cissy's hair, and that Cissy just said, Robyn, are you all right? And Robyn said, yeah, I just have a few scratches. And so that was the apology. So then, later on, when she talked to Nippy alone, there was no one else around, and of course, we know this was the bottom line. So Whitney was like, did you sleep with her? Don't lie to me. So then Robyn told her, you know, we just kissed. And we didn't take her clothes off. Then out of nowhere, wham, Whitney slapped her. So that's 2 slaps in one day, but who's counting? So anyway, she said that Whitney then apologized and they hugged. And she said that Whitney said, you know, she was tired, stressed out. So then after they hugged, they just fell asleep beside one another in the same bed. That's Robyn's story, and she's sticking to it. All right, so she thought the problem with Joy had been resolved. They got back to America. Whitney fired Joy. And so Joy called Robyn, and she put her on speakerphone, and Whitney was like, I hired you to be a dancer, and that's all you had to do. And Joy was like, I just wanted to be friends. Robyn, and she said, no, we don't need any friends. So that was the end of that, kind of, sort of. Then Joy called Robyn, because by this time Whitney had purchased a condo for Robyn. I mean, nice, plush, luxurious, because Robyn wanted to live out on her own. She thought that she could be a better employee. Well, Robyn called Whitney and said, Joy, wants to work out the little issues that we had. And Whitney was like, whatever. Next thing she knows, Whitney shows up at the condo, upset, demanding that Robyn tell Joy to leave. Joy sort of slips out onto the terrace, and Robyn wouldn't tell her to leave, and so Whitney just left crying. She said she found out the next day that she found out from Sylvia, who was waiting in the car, that Whitney was very upset and cried the whole time that she was driving her back home. Anyway, the next day, Whitney comes back to the condo. Remember the Blue Bible, where they wrote sweet nothings to each other from 1982, supposedly when they broke up. Whitney grabbed the Bible, ripped out the back pages where they both wrote messages to each other, and began tearing them into pieces, forbade Robyn from ever having anything else to do with Joy, and Joy could not come back to the condo. So then Whitney and Robyn decided, well, we're not ready to live apart from each other. So that's what she says. So she said that since they felt they couldn't live apart from each other, they weren't ready to live apart from each other yet. So then Robyn agreed to move back in with Whitney. Whitney sold the condo at a loss for $20,000. Tell me what you think in the comment section, folks. Okay? Thank you again for watching Roland's Reviews. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.